welcome to a bonus edition of KCIM Sports Rewind, where we have given you an extra 23 seconds of the show today. So extended play. It's like when they reissue a Star Wars movie with 15 seconds of unincluded film from the first one.
Yeah.
And then people still flock to it.
They do. They still pay like $15 or whatever to get into the theater.
Are you saying we could charge people to listen to this?
I think we could, because I think people should feel lucky to get an extra 23 seconds.
Casey, your feelings on that?
I go back to what I said a month ago. Are we even sure people listen to this?
I know a few people do, because I know Alan Honlos will talk to me about things, and then you got Fleschner and Molitor and Pomeroy. And
why do they only pay attention to the stupid stuff, though? It's when you do something wrong and dumb that they go, hey, I heard that.
Yeah. We haven't heard from Randy Snyder for a long time, so I don't know if he still listens or not.
I don't know. He's missing in action here.
He is.
So, Randy, if you're out there, man, contact us. Let us know what's going on. Where do we start today? I go about this one. 50 years ago for this.
A professional and pitches game. 1 ball and no strikes. Aaron waiting. The outfield deep and straight away. Fastball is a high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone.
In case you didn't know about that one, it's Hank Aaron's 715th home run, as called by the legend, the one and only Vin Scully there.
Yes.
He went on, let the crowd roar for about 30 seconds there before he started talking again. But 50 years since Hammer and Hank hit that one.
Right.
And do you remember the pitcher? That's not your trivia question of the day, by the way.
I was going to say, boy, yeah, good thing, because
I don't even know what my parents were thought about. I don't even know if my parents were thought about. For me, somebody that, never watched Hank Aaron play, because I was 20, 30, probably 40 years of not even being here.
Right.
For him at the moment to pass the home run record still gives you chills. Like, I still had chills listening to the call. I mean, that's just great.
Yeah.
Al Downing, by the way, was the pitcher for the Dodgers that day. By the way, I was 10 for the record.
Okay.
So just make that known right now.
I won't tell anybody how young I was.
Yeah, you were probably 4,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Right?
So I don't remember the play specifically. But
I do. I remember seeing it on TV.
Yeah. But I've seen it enough times. As you were playing that, literally, because of Vin calling it, I could see, the play going in my mind and stuff. So I remember him,
the two idiots that ran
out of the field. And did you notice that, back then it was different when fans ran on the field than it was than it would be today.
Yeah, they weren't swarmed by 50,000 cops and field personnel and all that.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start today? You want to start with the women's tournament? You want to start with the men's tournament?
It don't matter to me.
Let's start with how about the 18.7 million people who tuned in for the women's tournament game, that South Carolina and Iowa. Peak was at 24 million. I mean, bigger than any basketball game anywhere, any division in the last 5, 6, 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, and you had to kind of anticipate that the crowd was going to be that big, and good for Iowa, good for the NCAA, good for ESPN in this, and I don't mean this in any kind of way, so nobody send me messages and say that I'm saying that it was rigged or any of those kind of things, but the NCAA got exactly what they wanted. People were complaining about Iowa's route to the, to the championship game when the pairings came out, but they got what they wanted. They got, Caitlin Clark against Angel Reese. They got her against Juju Smith. They got her against Paige Beckers, and they got her against
South Carolina.
Yeah, or Juju, but didn't they? They didn't play USC. They didn't play USC. So but they got her against pretty much everybody they wanted to get her against, because that was going to boost the ratings, and the UConn, South Carolina, because of the way women's basketball has been trending, would have been a really good crowd, but it was nowhere compared to what the crowd was going to be with Iowa against South Carolina.
Do you think UConn would have fared better? I think athletically wise they would have.
I think so. I possibly. But, when you got Caitlin Clark on the other side.
Well, I feel like they would have been in the same position Iowa was. They only suited 8 girls in the Iowa game. Iowa only played 8 girls. Not even probably. I think played 7.
Right.
So.
And no contributions
from the bench.
off of the bench.
0 points off the bench.
Yep.
Yeah. It was tough. Just physically, they didn't match up well.
Oh, no,
right.
South Carolina, well, you could tell was the way more athletic team. I mean, what did the people say before the game? I mean, nobody on South Carolina averages over 30 minutes a game. That's just how deep they are. You know.
Yep.
Well, and Iowa, even after they jumped up about 10-0, you just knew that South Carolina, there was no panic in them whatsoever.
No.
They were like, okay, we'll control this. And you saw them just dominate the boards.
Right.
Offensively, defensively. Iowa just struggled struggled passing the ball in the lane and things like that because they tried to make those little passes they've been making all year. Well, it doesn't fly when you got a girl that's 6'7" down there.
Right. Yeah.
It was 19-7 in the first quarter, and I'm sitting at my cousin's house watching the game. And my brother goes, all right, we got this in the bag. We're up big. And I was like, yeah, South Carolina's going to make a run.
Well, and when was the last time in a championship game you saw a team go down 10-0
right away?
And coach doesn't call it timeout. I mean, that's how much you got an entire new starting lineup. Some of those girls played last year, but it's a new starting lineup for South Carolina. From last season, and coach is like, yeah, we're down 10-0, no big deal. We'll settle in, go play, girls. And that's just the confidence that she showed in them. You wonder if she'd have panicked and stuff maybe early in the game if that would have panicked that team. But yeah, they didn't panic at all.
Yeah.
Made her come back in as well in that. And what did surprise me was a little bit of the kind of backlash against Caitlin Clark. I don't know if you call it. Some of the former players, WNBA players, things like that, we're kind of ripping on Caitlin Clark, saying, "Oh, wait till she gets to this level. She's not going to be this dominant and all of this." And I know
I'll let Casey say it, and then I've got my response.
Diana Taurasi was especially harsh.
I had no problem with what she said.
Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, and Sue Bird all backlashed on Caitlin Clark because she beat UConn because all 3 of them played at UConn. That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I sit here and as a competitor, I sit here and I go, what athlete ever, no matter what gender or what sport, has said, oh yeah, I'm a pro and considered one of the greatest players of all time, but this college kid's going to come in and tear me apart and tear our league apart and dominate our league. There ain't any competitive athlete ever that's going to come out and say, oh yeah, you let this 18-year or 22-year-old come in and they're going to be the greatest of all time. Everybody that's competitive is going to say, yeah, she's outstanding, but wait until she gets up here with us. There's no athlete. I don't think Diana Taurasi was trying to bash on Caitlin Clark. I think she was kind of being competitive, going, I was kind of Caitlin Clark when I was in college at UConn. I was considered the best in the game at that time, and bring her on.
If she said it like that, I think it would have been taken totally differently. Said, hey, take it from me. I had to have a big adjustment to the WNBA. If she said it like that, there wouldn't have been any problem. But she said reality is coming to her.
And I think what she meant is that we've all had to go through this.
I know exactly.
I went through it.
She just
Sue
phrased
Bird,
it wrong.
right?
And the way she said it was just kind of very accusatory.
I thought too, and I thought the 18. When you're some to the point when you're dropping 30 against 18-year-olds, I mean, it kind of made it seem like, oh, anybody can do that. That's the part that got me. Like, well, I mean, most of these girls.
And I think we read stuff into it too much things because I think everybody wants to react. I think when she said 18-year-olds, she's saying you're putting 30 against college-age kids. I just think everybody. I'm going to say this. Caitlin Clark always says, quit defending me. But every time somebody opens their mouth, everybody feels like they have to defend Caitlin Clark. Yeah. She is one of the greatest players of all time. We need to quit freaking out and trying to defend a woman who keeps telling you, I don't need defended, I can defend myself.
Well, yeah, she says, I don't listen to anybody outside my circle of people. Yeah. But she's also never come out and said, I'm going to do this in the W. No. She's never said that.
No, it's the media that keeps saying it.
Yeah. But she is just got that ability like a Larry Bird or a Magic Johnson, to take that game to the next level with her passing.
Right.
Almost more than her scoring in the WNBA. And I tell you, UConn did one of the best jobs of defending her I've ever seen.
Right.
In fact, the girl that defended her, somebody went on her Wikipedia page and changed her occupation to the Secretary of Defense.
That's funny.
That is funny.
That's funny.
So,
now, I will say this in that championship game. Credit to the young lady that last year, and I can't think of her name, but credit to the young lady that last year couldn't shoot threes very well and got waved off by Caitlin Clark on that one possession that went viral on social media, that she picked up Caitlin Clark to start guarding her in the second quarter of the championship game on Sunday afternoon. And Caitlin went 5 of 19 the rest of the game. So didn't complain last year when Caitlin Clark kind of was like, yeah, go ahead and shoot. I don't have to defend you. This year she went out and she worked on her three-point shot, became a better three-point shooter. But when she got the opportunity to go one-on-one with Caitlin Clark, you got to say that her defense changed the tempo of that game.
I mean, 18 points in the first quarter and 12 the rest of the game.
12 the rest of the game. And 5 of 19 after that first quarter when they switched defenders and put that young lady on her. And that's not me trying to attack Caitlin Clark. That's just me saying, look at what this young lady did against maybe the greatest player of all time.
I will say this. When she does go to the WNBA, there's already teams like the Las Vegas Aces.
Right.
They've already moved their game with Indiana from their 12,000-seat stadium to a 20,000-seat stadium. So she is going to be fantastic. I don't know why every player isn't saying, hey, great, bring it on. Let's get the attendance up. Let's all make more money off this.
Yeah, there is definitely some jealousy. I mean, you got to think about it. We've had a history of great women's players coming through all the way back to before Cheryl Miller when you and I were kids out at USC. There's always been great women's players, but nobody has ever garnered the attention, nowhere near the attention that Caitlin Clark has garnered. Yeah. So I guarantee you that when Diana Taurasi and Brianna Stewart and some of those athletes that are in the WNBA sound like they're talking negative, there's some jealousy that's probably there, because they probably look at it. Brianna Stewart, I won 4 national championships as one of the MVP of the Final Four all 4 years. And if you ask 90% of the nation who I am, they're not going to have any idea who I am. And my mom knows who Caitlin Clark is. My mom stops to watch Caitlin Clark. And my mom had never, I'm not saying that, my mom watches men's basketball. My mom had never watched women's basketball.
Honestly,
until now.
Me either. She totally changed my way of watching women's basketball. And can I get to my least favorite sports person of the week?
Yes.
All right,
we
here
found
we go.
a sponsor.
Yeah, I'm talking about you, Hootie.
I don't know what did Hootie do.
Well, first of all, he's from South Carolina.
Okay.
So I was like, I love the guy. I loved Hootie and the Blowfish. Darius Rucker, the lead singer, was cheering a little too well for South Carolina for my taste. So, Hootie, you made my least favorite sports person of the week. They're right there. So.
Okay. I didn't even see him.
Yeah. They showed him a couple times on the TV. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple times. And he was just,
I was hanging out with some friends watching the game, but we were chit-chatting so much, I don't think.
We were watching, he comes on, I'm like, no, Hootie, come on. No, don't do that to me.
As I kept hearing on Facebook, you need to cheer for your hometown state. If that's where he's from, we have to understand it. Because, I can't believe the Nebraska-Iowa fights on Facebook right now about whether or not who's cheering for and who's cheering against. I completely stay out of all of that stupid social media stuff, yes.
All right, trivia question this week. We're going to switch over to the men's bracket here. UConn, of course, finishing up. They beat the B team, Purdue, last night. That's what they kind of made them look like. Although I did.
Second half.
I watched all of the women's championship game. I watched none of the game last night. Not a second of it. But UConn is the first number 1 overall seed to win the national championship since 2013.
Wow.
Who is that team in 2013? That's your trivia question for the morning. So, and it says their hint was one of their rivals was in the news this week for college basketball. One of their rivals. So there you go. There, just to make it confusing for you.
Can I throw a guess out now?
No. Okay. Save it till later. All right. So let's talk about the men's bracket last night. UConn, I read a stat that they were last year, they won every tournament game by double digits.
Yep.
They turned around this year, won every single tournament game by double digits. That's a crazy stat.
I think the closest game they've had in this 2-year run in the tournament itself is 13.
I think it was the Alabama game. From the Final Four. 14 points.
I think that was, So, dominant. Just absolutely dominating everybody. So.
Now, speaking of Alabama, did you see their shot chart? I think it was against them, but everything was either under the bucket or beyond the three-point line, except for one shot. That was a mid-range shot they had to take because the clock was expiring. Otherwise, Nate Oates is like, forget it. We're not worrying about a mid-range 2-point shot. We're going for threes or easy buckets.
Right. That's the style Nate Oates plays. It's to run you out of the gym.
Yeah.
Analytics taking over in basketball too.
Yeah. Well, and you wonder now. We've had so much three-point shooting. The two teams in the national championship game last night.
They
survived with bigs.
Yeah.
But, they survived and won because of their big guys. So you wonder if the big guy will come back a little bit. But I thought it was interesting. Casey comes into me yesterday and he goes, with John Calipari leaving, you think Danny Hurley leaves UConn to go to Kentucky. And there's still an absolute possibility that he could do that. But I'm sitting here going, you listened to him last night. UConn has been the best basketball program on the men's side of things.
6 national championships since 2000.
So why would you leave unless Kentucky can throw a bunch of money at you that you can't respond with? But you think about it, with what the UConn women have done under Gino Auriemma and what the UConn men have done, the basketball world in both sides, both women's and men's basketball, still revolves around Connecticut.
I would think that as soon as UConn won last night and they got on the plane, that the AD was calling Dan, so what's it going to take to keep you here? I guarantee you that talks happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And every
if they lose him, do they call his brother Bobby? That's just another Hurley for a Hurley.
Yeah, but Bobby hasn't had the same kind of success. So there's something about Danny.
Well, the name's thrown out right away. First of all, they're going to Kentucky's saving like $32 million of salary they would have given Calipari.
They'll give it to somebody else.
But Nate Oates, I understand, has an $18 million buyout.
Right.
But then you've got Bruce Pearl at Auburn. I don't know if he stays or not.
Yeah.
Nate Oates already said that he's going back to Alabama.
Yep.
Billy Donovan and Scott Drew from Baylor. I see Scott Drew as being a great fit there. Maybe he wants to go to that real true blue blood.
Right.
From
He's
Baylor.
Done special things down at Baylor. I thought the interesting name that
go.
The interesting name I heard thrown out last night on, I don't think it was SportsCenter, but maybe it was TNT or one of them. But
Free McCaffrey?
No, I mentioned that to you yesterday, and he was like, yes, but was Dawn Staley. They says that
Really?
Dawn Staley has proven that she can coach, and in today's world, they think that a woman could coach men's basketball and be successful. And they're like, she's proven to be one of the great coaches in the game today. And
there's high school women coaches. Why can't there be a?
I totally agree. She's a great coach, but I can't imagine the fan base at Kentucky would want. Wouldn't revolt at that. I mean, they're going to want somebody who's won a championship. They're going to want somebody that's, anybody who's not proven is going to be just absolutely hammered by the fan base.
Right. Yeah.
So they've got to have someone who's won a national championship or just definitely a bigger resume.
Fan bases can always be wrong, because I remember when Kirk Ferentz was hired over at Iowa, there was hardly any Iowa fans that were happy about it, and now the guy's going to have a statue someday, and he's beloved, and so fan bases can be completely wrong. So.
I have no doubt about that. They can be absolutely completely wrong about this. But your thought, Casey?
I don't know. Every coach that every program that has a successful coach right now is like, so what can I extend you to?
Right.
Scott Drew makes sense to Kentucky, but what he's done at Baylor, I don't know if I'd want to leave that.
Right.
Scott Drew someday is going to have a stadium down there named after him, because he brought that program from being in the dumpster to national recognition. So
is he going to want that pressure of Kentucky? But you've also got massive NIL that you can go out and get players with. So it's you could almost just pick your team.
But they're going to have whoever comes in. And not that the culture is a bad culture, but they're going to have to change kind of the style or the culture, however you want to say it. Because Calipari's been a live and die by the one and dones, and I don't see many other coaches coming in there and want to live by the one and done. So they're going to have to flip that, I would guess, whoever they bring in.
It's almost gone to an older thing. You want those transfers that are seniors or juniors that are, you need a big guy down low. Let's go get a guy that's got a couple of years of college basketball experience and put him in there and run our system. So COVID
kind of changed the game in a little bit. The teams have now gotten older because you got all these, guys that have that extra year of eligibility, and
they're staying because of NIL.
Right.
They can make more money actually than trying to go pro.
Right. Yeah.
So I see it a big time. That's why Omaha Ballou didn't play at Iowa State. I mean, he just physically couldn't match up with those guys.
Right. Yeah. 22-year-olds against, 18-year-olds.
A kid.
Yeah. And 18-year-olds don't always understand on the defensive side of the ball, and that's been Kentucky's biggest problem under Calipari here the last several years. 18-year-olds don't understand a lot of times, the difference of the intensity that you have to play with on the defensive side of the ball. So.
I look at the Kentucky job, like the Alabama football job this last offseason. They had a bunch of coaches thrown out there on who was going to get it, and you saw all these big name guys like, no, I don't want that.
Right.
Because I think of the pressure that you'd be under. It's going to take a younger coach that has had success to go there, I think.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to change things pretty drastically to make their mark on the program, and it's going to have to work,
Right.
and it's going to have to work quickly.
Yeah, they're going to get maybe 2 or 3 years. Speaking of the transfer portal, thoughts on Haley Van Lith? I know where KC wants her to go.
I think she'd be a great fit at Iowa.
Yeah,
I think she'd be a great fit at Iowa.
John, could she fit in with the Cyclones or USD?
But Cyclones, I don't think that they've got all those freshmen there waiting to play. They're bringing in some more people, and so I think they're fine at Iowa State. So they're not going to be looking at the transfer portal unless somebody comes there and wants to play. Because I just don't think they're going to make that money at Iowa State. At Iowa, she could make more money. And they're going to team her up with the big recruit they have coming in from California.
The California recruit's 2025, but they do have
2025. Okay.
but they do have a 6'4" post player from Colorado coming in as top 40 recruit. So, I mean, for Iowa, it's pretty good. I mean, Iowa has a top 10 recruiting class right now for the 2024 season in women's basketball. But the one thing that has yet to be stood out is they need that scoring guard.
Right.
And I think Haley would fit perfectly.
Yeah.
Now we'll see what happens with her. So real quick, we got to get to the bracket challenge. Who was the winner? More importantly, who is the loser?
Yes. Well, we'll start with the winner because he reached out to me already this morning and wanted to know where to pick up his winnings. But Darren Miller, the Audubon boys basketball coach, is our champion this year. Of course, he had UConn, as did a lot of guys. Yeah. The shocker here, Doug Waniger took second. He kind of stayed middle of the pack most of the way and then climbed the ladder late.
Doug was lurking the whole time.
He was, yes. Derek Tiggeson finished in third. I'm guessing he had one of his kids fill out his bracket. Doug probably did. So Matt Wilkin finished in fourth. Gene Rasmussen was fifth. I ended up in sixth place. Andrew Klink was seventh. Randy Beeson ended up in eighth place. Terry Kaspabauer, who had a chance if Purdue would have won, he'd have won it. He dropped down to ninth along with Keith Wagner. Tom Hawkap didn't want to be in the toilet this year, wasn't?
Congratulations, Tom.
Yes, he finished in 11th. John, you were in 12th place. If you notice, I haven't said Casey's name yet.
I dropped from first place.
As long as I don't get last.
First place down to 12th.
Down to 12th, yep. Katie Cook ended up in 13th. Todd Danner was 14th. Jason Phillips and Sean Minahan tied for 15th. Jeff Honnold, got to give him a little credit. He crawled out of the basement and finished in 17th. Todd Bontrager, 18th. Kurt Batten, 19th. Caitlin McAllister was 20th. Casey Miners in 21st. Nick Brinks, 22nd. Janie Stolk finished 23rd. Ashley Kaler, 24th. Defending champion Clive Clark, 25th.
Boy, he was ahead when they were early going.
He was, yeah. But once North Carolina got beat, his bracket kind of fell apart on him a little bit. And then, yes, the guy that we gave a ton of talk about last week, a ton of crap last week, Corey Meyer from down at Coon Rapids Beard, 26th, last place.
Toilet trophy soon to be arriving on
hopefully
Corey's
as
desk.
Early as tomorrow. So yes.
Well, it doesn't have to go far.
No.
Tom works at New Way Ford. We just need transferred up the hill there at Coon Rapids.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be. And then on the girls' side of things, the women's side of things, Todd Danner and I tied for first place in points, but Todd ended up winning the tiebreaker, which was total points scored in the championship game on Sunday. Gene Rasmussen was third, Jason Phillips fourth, Sean Minahan fifth, Ashley Kaler sixth. KC Miners finished in seventh. Clive Clark was eighth, Katie Cook ninth, Todd Bontrager 10th. And I won't be hard on him, but Jeff Honnold was in the basement.
Well, he crawled out of the basement only to go back into the basement on the women's bracket.
So
I did not fill one out, so I'm just like, I didn't feel confident enough to actually even fill one out for that. So I'll give Jeff credit as you filled one out.
He did, and he said that he thought it was mandatory. So it wasn't. It was whoever wanted to do one. But by the way, Alan Honlos did message earlier in the show when we talked about being on 23 seconds early, and he said that'll be 23 seconds he's never going to get back.
You are correct, sir. That is exactly right. What was I going to say?
I don't know. I figured we were going to a break.
No, we are going to go to a break here, but I was going to say something. And it was probably going to be monumental.
Right.
It was probably going to be the highlight of the show, but now that thought's gone.
It'll come back.
We're just going to be back after the break.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
Yes, it's the honorary toilet trophy presentation on KCIM Sports Rewind here this morning. We don't care about winners.
No.
We just care about the losers.
Yeah. We certainly give the losers a much harder time than we congratulate the winners, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and that's the way it will stay. That's the way we like it. All right, trivia question time. UConn, the first men's #1 overall seed to win the national championship since 2016. Who is that other team?
Louisville.
Louisville, yeah. What nicely done. Both of you came up with that answer.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if I'd honestly got it right off the top of my head if you wouldn't have said rivals in the news lately. That's what made me think.
I was thinking UConn because I think when UConn went on that run with Shabazz Napier, it was right around that time too. But I knew Louisville had to be in there because I think that was the year that kid broke his leg, and it was really bad in the Final Four. So.
But when
a Shabazz Napier reference, nicely done.
Has UConn though? They weren't a #1 seed.
No, they were. They were a 7, I think.
Yeah, and somebody brought up that we've been talking about is UConn deserved to be a blue blood with all the championships that they've won, and and then they were talking about they don't get the same talk as the Carolinas and the Dukes and the Kansases and stuff like that. But somebody said, well, part of that could be is that every championship until this year that they've won, they really weren't. They were a 5 seed or a 6 seed, or
they were 4 last year.
Yeah, they weren't really a 1 seed. So every year they've won it, they've kind of gotten hot at the right time, and this was finally the year. I think the last 2 years, there was a lot of people that picked them to win the championship a year ago. I think the last 2 years they were clearly the best team in basketball. Where I think some of those other championships, they were the team that got hot at the right time.
Yeah. They're clearly a blue blood, but they're just under the radar blue bloods,
right?
And that's the way they prefer it. I'm sure it's like, don't pay attention. Kansas, North Carolina, Kentucky, pay attention to all those. UConn will just mind their own business until tournament time, and then clean your floor with you, by double digits every single game the last 2 years.
And when is the Big East going to be starting to be discussed as maybe the mecca of men's college basketball? You think
Marquette, Creighton.
Villanova won 2 or 3 under Jay Wright, and now UConn's won back-to-back. So maybe 5 of the last 8 or so or 9 national champions have been out of the Big East. I can't remember exactly the years that Villanova won, but Villanova won, I think, 2 for sure, if not 3
with Jay Wright,
under Jay Wright. So you think about it, that program's putting out more national championships. That conference is putting out maybe more national champions than any conference out there, and it's not the same team winning it all the time.
Yeah, we got to move on. Big day yesterday in local sports. I mean, you had track going on. You had a whole bunch of golf meets going on yesterday. A little bit breezy and cool out there.
It was a little cooler than what I certainly anticipated it was going to be.
When the sun went away yesterday at Carroll, it was.
Even the kids thought it was a little uncomfortable, but I did kind of laugh because I remember this morning I woke up and I knew Casey and I were both going to be dragging a little bit today. Last week you said, if you guys working really hard, and we're like, not yet. Last night was one of those nights. I know you posted girls track at like 2:30 or so, and by the time I wrapped up things and shut the computer off at the studio at the house, it was 3:15, 3:20 in the morning. So yeah.
And my alarm went off an hour later. And back up.
So the long days have now started. The weather's gotten better, and the long days have now started. So
So any good times yesterday for that track? Because a lot of the teams,
the girls, I thought were really good.
Yeah,
they took. I think out of the 5 local schools we had 10 overall first place finishes. So I thought the girls ran really good. It was really competitive. The team scores are really close. Through the first, I think the top 5 were separated by a fraction of points. So
and for me, the boys, I wrote the boys last night, kind of just as dominant in a way. But I look back at part of the things I was there, and the Ryan North Jacob Graving 3200 early. They separated themselves from everybody immediately, and stuff, and then kind of hung by each other, and then Ryan able to pull away in the last 400 meters. But for me, I think watching them two compete against each other at the meets that they're at, where they're both there, is going to be fun.
They're great friends too.
long. Yeah, if you're ever driving through town at 8 o'clock at night in the middle of the winter and you see 2 or 3 guys out running the streets and running the sidewalks together, it's Ryan or Jacob Graving, and a lot of times like Blake Malinsky might be with them. I know Reg Potts, who took third from South Central Calhoun, has come down and run with them. Isaiah Aragon, who's a great runner, and that group up at East Sac County has come down and run with him. So I've literally seen it where I've been pulling through town at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and it's like 15 degrees outside in the middle of winter, and you see this pack of young guys out running, and you look and you're like, yep, I know who those guys all are. So it's
Who's going to have a good, strong season as a team in track, I think? I mean, Carroll has really had a strong program last year.
They have. I think the Carroll boys, I think the ICAM Manning girls and boys could. I know Elena Christensen down at Audubon is really happy with their girls team. I think the South Central Calhoun girls and boys last night were probably better than what I thought maybe they were going to be. I think we've got a chance to have some good solid clubs this year. So.
I think the one thing you'd take away from last night, though, is that ICAM Manning and Audubon did a really good showing as a 1A school with a bunch of 2A and 3A schools at Carroll last night. I mean, we talked to both coaches, and they're like, yeah, I feel like we could do really good in this event. And they did, but I think some other events really showed that they could have a strong season.
Yeah, well, you look at the ICAM Manning boys 4x8. They've been at 2 meets so far this year, outdoor meets, and have dominated the field in both of them. I was over at Denison on Friday last week, and they won by almost 130, 140 meters, and then last night was kind of similar, where once they got the lead, Lane Sams gets them out to that lead early on, and nobody really competes with them the rest of the race.
Tell you what, the rest of this week should be great for the weather. It's going to be windy starting on Thursday, but there's going to be a ton of golf out there. Any good scores from yesterday that kind of jumped out at you as you looked at the golf scores?
I mean, the Audubon boys have shot really good in 2 meets.
The boys have shot
they just
really
haven't had a lot of meets, right?
Yeah. No, and then a lot of kids haven't gotten the chance to be outside, so some of the scores that we're getting are kind of a little surprising for the first time being outside.
And I know you were up at South Central Calhoun the other night, saw something we don't see much.
Caleb Gaffney, his first time out on the course, as an official meet, shot a 1 under.
Whoa!
Yeah, and then he shot well last night too.
Yep.
Was he medalist?
No, he wasn't medalist, but I think he finished overall 7th, but was 4 over for the par.
39 or something
39
like
for
that
the par where they were at yesterday. So
the day I shoot a 1 under is the day I break my clubs and quit.
Yeah, the only way I'll ever shoot 1 under is maybe get it on the first hole and then retire. Yeah.
Well, guys, we're out of time here for KCIM Sports Rewind. Again, catch a podcast if you want to listen back to any of this, or Alan, if you want to waste another 32 minutes of your life, you go ahead and do that. It's going to be available on the website and mobile app coming up in just minutes.
Western Iowa's news and classic hit station is 1380 AM, 95.1 FM.